all these people, they're going to end up, they're going to pay the price. God's going to deal with it sooner or later. You know, right now what's happening is, this is why you're also seeing the Democrats basically stalling his appointments for his offices right now. Like, it took Jeff Sessions forever to get in, is because there's a bigger picture at lie here. And it's because the fact that you've got Pizzagate, you've got the pedophilia ring, whatever you want to call it, you've got the Clinton Global Foundation, whatever it is. I mean, you've got all these things coming into play right now, and they know that sooner or later they're going to be exposed and they're going to be brought down. So the ones that are fighting the hardest are usually the ones that are the most guilty of all of this stuff. So that's what you're seeing right now. That's what's manifesting right now. You know, God's going to deal with the news media. He's cleaning house on everything right now. You know, it's like they're putting out these fake stories about Russia. They're putting out all these different fake stories. Well, I just got done listening to it. I didn't get a chance to listen to it until today. And, you know, what I took away from it was that basically he's calling the news media out. And he's basically trying to tell these guys, say, look, you guys are doing the American people a disservice, and you're doing yourself a disservice, you know, by not being honest with the people, because the people aren't believing you anyway. And that's why he's tweeting people. That's why he's on, you know, Facebook and this, that, and the other, so you can get it real time. You can get the true news from that. So, I mean, the news media is corrupt. It's being basically run by the New World Order right now and George Soros and that bunch. So all of this stuff's going to get cleaned up eventually, but it's going to be a fight in the process. They're desperate right now. They're pulling at strings. They're doing everything they can to stop him and his administration. And I got news for them. It's not going to happen. They're not going to impeach President Trump. They're not going to get rid of him. He's not going anywhere. He's anointed and appointed by God, and he will finish the job. He is on God's agenda. So, and what most people don't understand, and this is what the left does not understand, it's almost like take the immigration issue right now, where God was going to purge the land. Well, the illegals, the gangs, ISIS, all these things. Well, they've already started doing that. What people have to realize, this is not Donald Trump that's doing it. It's God that's doing it. God is the one who's purging the land. He is using Donald Trump in order to do that, but it's God's agenda. It's his agenda that Trump is doing right now. We won a battle, but we haven't won the war. And, you know, going back to, you know, I'm trying to create a team concept. I've created teams in the fire service for years, and the problem with the church is they think it's individualism. And when they don't agree with something or your theology, you don't think the same way they do, it's automatically attack, attack, attack. And it's like, look, we don't have to agree with everything. Me and you may not agree on everything, but you're still my sister in Christ, and I'm going to have your six in that foxhole when we go to war. It doesn't matter what you think, period. So when you're in that foxhole together, you put your differences aside, and that's where the team concept comes in, and the church has not learned that yet. They think just because someone thinks differently than me, I have to go on the attack. I've got to expose them. And God's had it with that. And God told me one thing, and, you know, he speaks to us in our own language. You know, he speaks to me in fire department language. He says, Mark, be ready because you're going to be attacked, you know what I mean, as a prophetic voice. But he says, I want you to give them the message. And he says, I want you to go in and I want you to do spiritual triage on my people. Go in and give them the message. Don't get involved in ungodly warfare. In other words, arguing. He says, if they don't listen, they're in the black. They're spiritually dead. Move on. He says, I will deal with them personally. He says, because there's too many people that are in the red, yellow, or the green who are walking wounded or who have been wounded by the church who will listen to this message, will accept it, but even more important, will act on it. So that's important for the listeners.
I believe there's going to be a great outpouring of God Well, he's shaking his church now, and like on the last show, I had prophesied that a sign would be given. The earth would quake when Donald Trump was elected, and it was Christchurch, New Zealand.
Right.
And there was a tsunami coming in. They were expecting 2 waves. And that is the judgment coming in for the church. I believe the first part of that judgment is going to be this mass exodus that we're seeing from the church right now. You're seeing people leave the church in droves right now.
Yeah.
You're going to see churches dry up financially because of that. You're going to see the doors close. You're going to see churches collapse because of that. That's the shaking that's coming to the church right now. And what God is doing is He is separating His true church from the counterfeit church. That's what you're seeing happen right now. Because the harvest can't take place until He's got boots on the ground with character, integrity, and the attributes that God is looking for in the army of God is love, grace, mercy, and unity.
You know, when you keep saying unity, 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 and I keep hearing it over and over and feeling it actually. When we were with Don and Mary, Jim and myself and Mondo, at the inauguration, the thing that we felt was unity. And it's not like everybody was Christians. That it was just that we were all in one accord when we were right there and we were watching the inauguration and the president and the first lady and the whole thing. The thing that we felt was unity. Everybody was in one accord. Everybody was together. We were there for a reason. And to feel that unity, I've honestly never felt it in the church. Mm-hmm. But everybody there at really a secular event, if you want to call it that, I guess. But it kind of felt like a church service, supposed to.
Yes.
But we were all in. Did you guys feel that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I have one prophetic word that I'd like to talk about that came to pass when Donald Trump was inaugurated, and it was called Do Not Fear America. And I wrote it February 24th, 2016. And it talks about, because at that time, Justice Scalia had just died. Now, I'm of a belief that he was murdered because I believe the Democrats or the globalists, the Illuminati, whoever the case may be, New World Order was trying to literally push their agenda to try to get another Supreme Court justice in there to stack the court in their favor just in case they did lose. So everybody was panicking when Justice Scalia had died. Well, the Lord had given 2 signs, and I want to give those 2 signs out. They had given 2 signs at Justice Scalia's funeral. And at the bottom of the steps, if you go back on YouTube, you can watch the funeral. And at the bottom of the steps, when they were taking the body out of the hearse and they were approaching the steps, you could hear a siren in the background. Well, they were walking up the steps because you heard a very reverent silence there at the funeral. They got to the top of the steps and a train horn sounded because I get a lot of emails on this because the prophetic word doesn't say what the signs were. It just says, did you not see the 2 signs that I gave? So the siren represents help is on the way because the next justice that will be appointed will come from my anointed, the Trump train. That's what God was saying during that funeral. And everybody was in absolute, utter panic at that time because they were so worried that Congress was going to pass another justice and stack the court in favor of the liberals. Well, in the Word, it talked about that it would be reserved for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump would be the one to appoint the next Supreme Court justice. So Congress, thank goodness, had stopped any of that taking place. And in the day that Trump was inaugurated as president, that came to pass because they never passed a Supreme Court justice, and liberals never got away with it. So that was one that came to pass. Now, in that same Do Not Fear, it talks about the 5 Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump will appoint. God will use Donald Trump to appoint the 5 Supreme Court justices, and in that, it said that Roe versus Wade would be overturned.